8:34, everybody. And a recent federal report includes some shocking figures now concerning the homeless population in New York. So let's talk about it. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development found that overall, homelessness jumped 53% between 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, New York is among the states with the largest homeless population, with a little over 158,000 people unhoused, second only to California. So this morning we are joined by Social Services Commissioner Molly Wasso Park, who is here to tell us how her agency is tackling this issue. So good morning to you, Commissioner. Thanks for taking the time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back.
So last week, for at least most of the week, we were under Code Blue, and that's really when you kind of step up your outreach, right? Can you kind of lay out what exactly that looks like? How many folks you send out there in your outreach groups and what they do?
Absolutely. So we have a robust outreach presence no matter what the weather looks like, right?
Okay.
Our goal is to get people inside, to keep people safe. And so we have about 400 outreach workers, a mix of city employees and not-for-profit partners who are out on the streets, on the subways, 24/7. That's, again, true no matter what the weather. But when it gets particularly cold, we really ratchet that up. We had those outreach teams have lists of people who they were particularly concerned about. They're checking on them. They're really working to encourage them to come inside. Again, that's always part of our goal, but really the focus. Sites that aren't normally drop-in centers do accept people walking in off the street. So it's really an all-hands-on-deck effort to keep people safe.
All right, and I'm sure that will remain in place for the remainder of the winter, right? I want to talk about the subway safety plan, which targets people dealing with mental health issues, substance abuse, right? And this is really what people are zeroed in on, laser focused in terms of feeling safe on the train, right? And recently we've seen some high-profile incidents. This woman that was burned alive on the train. There's been some high-profile pushings. So I guess some might ask, why isn't the plan working?
So first of all, let me say, yes, tragic incidents, and my heart really goes out to the families of those who've been affected. I think we hear about these really sensational, really horrific incidents. What we don't hear about is the thousands of people who we do engage with, who come inside, who are connected to services, who are connected to permanent housing. In this administration, there's been more than 2,800 people who were experiencing unsheltered homelessness, right? So living on the streets or on the subways, who now have homes of their own, right? That's a really remarkable number. We've brought thousands of people inside into shelters that are specifically oriented to those who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So absolutely there's more work to do, but I think there's a lot of success stories as well.
Yeah, more work to be done. The mayor just announced last week $650 million investment in with mental illness and homelessness. Where do you think that money needs to be prioritized? Like, what part of the programs need to be prioritized?
Really grateful for the mayor's commitment to investing in the most vulnerable New Yorkers. We have a continuum of services at the Department of Homeless Services. It starts with the outreach workers that I mentioned before, so some of this resources are going to the 24/7 outreach. The next step on that continuum is shelters that are specifically oriented towards those who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, what we call safe havens. These tend to be a little bit smaller, a little less dense, fewer rules than traditional shelters, and we know these work. So this is a big part of the investment that the mayor announced last week. We have about 4,000 of those beds now, and we're going up to 4,900. Really excited about that. We know that people will stay indoors when they're placed in safe havens, and that they're more likely to connect to permanent housing.
So then there's been the big issue of the involuntary removals, which the mayor is looking for. The governor said she wants to get it done. She's putting it in her legislation, involuntarily removing those with mental health, getting them the help they need. And some of these beds you're talking about, the question is, how long do they remain in these facilities, and who determines, okay, they can go, and where do they go?
So when, our goal always when we're engaging and when our outreach workers are engaging is to get people to voluntarily accept services. Sometimes an involuntary removal is necessary. It is an important part of the toolbox. People are taken to the hospital. In many cases, they're admitted to the hospital. And when necessary, we coordinate very closely at Department of Homeless Services with our healthcare partners to try and connect people to the placement that is right for them with the right level of wraparound services. I think there is more work to be done on discharge planning. Last year, there were about 1,100 people who were discharged directly from inpatient psychiatric care to the Department of Homeless Services, so we'll keep working.
But even those who are voluntarily coming to you, right, and they go to these shelters, where do they go after that? How do you prevent the cycle of getting back on the street?
So permanent housing is that third step in that continuum that I mentioned, and that's something we've been really focused on. So we've had about 2,800 people in this administration who were living on the streets and subways who are now permanently housed.
Yeah.
We're going to keep moving on that. Last year we have had about a 19% increase in supportive housing placements, something that we want to keep doing because permanent housing is the goal for everybody.
Yeah. And quickly, before we let you go, we want to talk about how folks at home can help with the Hope Count 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope is one of our most important nights of the year. Thousands of volunteers join us to go out and assess the number of people who are living on the streets and subways. This year it's January 28th. People can sign up at nyc.gov/hope.
Great.
Good stuff. Commissioner, thank you so much. Great work that you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me.